Good morning. Welcome to the Experience Dialogue. In this conversation, we have guests with very varied experience, and we are just talking like friends, interrupting each other, or even disagreeing with each other, which is excellent. And today, I have two amazing guests here with me. Sarah, I spoke to you first, so I'm just introducing you first for no other reason. Sarah from Concentrix. What was very interesting for me when I talked to Sarah is she actually has spent over 18 years in the BPO industry, and she has come all along. And she's one of the few women in service that I've seen who have grown completely in the service side and seen things grow. So I would love to get her experience and her background behind what she has seen over multiple decades. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Really glad to be here. Lovely to talk to you, Kay.
Rohit, you have spent a ton of time in the tech industry, mostly with infrastructure platforms, very complex products. And you have also spent the time in technical support side of the realm and have grown very much into the technical support side of the realm. You are with Databricks right now, which is kind of right in the middle of how data comes together and how AI is processed. So I think, getting your expertise and your changes over the decades and your background from technical support would be a very interesting and very excellent mix with Sarah. So welcome, Rohit.
Oh, thank you so much, Kay. Glad to be here and nice to meet you as well, Sarah.
You too, Rohit.
So we didn't really plan for this particular discussion other than just putting down some topics, right? So forget about, and you both don't have to answer every question. So if there is something very salient that you want to bring it up, just bring it up, okay? Mm-hmm. So in terms of career experience, I know I had highlighted a few things here, but it would be great to understand, Rohit, from you, what you have seen as a change that has happened since you started your career to where it is right now in terms of your career as a support executive. That's one. Let's start that first, and then we'll talk about support in itself.
Yeah, to give you a little bit of context, like before I got into the workforce industry itself, even during my academics, I was always inclined towards AI, ML kind of stuff. But the AI ML then was never the AI ML what we see today. The vision was so much more core to a group of people who are really great experts in the AI ML field. Even the projects that I did were very focused on real-time systems, embedded systems, machines, robots and stuff. Maze solving robots that would solve mazes by themselves. So ML and AI were very focused in certain aspects of the industry. But as I got into the workforce, I joined as a real-time systems engineer. Started out as a core developer, coding in assembly, C++, very systems level programming. Moving on to more higher level languages like C# and Java and other things. But over time, what I've realized is every 2 to 3 years we were seeing a shift, whether it's in terms of improved high level systems. And customers themselves adopting a lot of things on their end and forcing vendors to keep upskilling themselves to provide better services. So I've always seen that the industry drives all product innovation. Customers drive product innovation. So that's something that I learned really early on, and moving into the support organization eventually allowed me to also see the side of how customers expect support from these vendors. So all in all, over time, being part of companies like TCS in India, Tata Consultancy, moving to companies like Subex that purely focused on telecom application development, then moving to Hortonworks, Hadoop, the big data revolution. Got the opportunity to even spend some time authoring a book around it. It's been a great ride so far, and now in Databricks, it's bringing all that experience together. Right from the day of coding a small robot to solve a maze to using AI to solve customer problems has been amazing. So I feel that we are in a very, very great phase of customer support timeline.
Very true, very true. Sarah, would you like to take your perspective on the question?
Yeah, I'm really interested in Rohit's comments because we're really both ends of the spectrum, right? The experience that I have is kind of front of house, with the direct customer engagement through BPO, and Rohit, you're really in the machine room at the back, right? Kind of driving the efficiencies. I think I've been with Concentrix for nearly 20 years. And I think that the biggest change that I have seen is that when I started my career, everything was about having enough people to manage the customer demand, right? And it was a very easy calculation to say number of calls times time taken equals the number of people that you need, right? And it meant that for our people, some of our jobs were really quite dull, right? It was very repetitive. It was very hard to keep people engaged. It wasn't an aspirational career. For people, so as leaders, that was quite tough. But over time, with the development of technology and with the input of automation, the real acceleration of that now, with the growth of bots and with the opportunity in AI, we have seen that our jobs have become so much more interesting. A lot of the repetitive tasks and a lot of those process-driven steps that we would have dealt with a human can now be dealt with much more efficiently by a machine. And what that means for our people is that their jobs are actually a whole bunch more interesting because they're dealing with really complex customer demand. They're dealing with people who have exhausted all possible opportunities for finding the answers to their question or finding the right product for them. And so the skill level of the people that work for us now is just a world away from the skill level of the people who worked with us 20 years ago. And I think that's great for the industry. It really helps us from a motivational point of view because it really gives people that interest in their job when they come in every day, and something that makes the brain tick and keeps people going. So for me, the BPO industry just gets more exciting, with every new development that comes along.
Yeah, it doesn't matter whether I'm talking to a BPO leader, technical support leader, field service leader, customer support, customer service, all sorts of flavors, right? I'm hearing the same thing, that the people's jobs are changing considerably. One of the interesting perspectives for both of you is we do AI Agent Masterclass where people from all levels, mostly AI Agent Masterclass so far has been executives so far. And career, we do a career roundtable where we have people from all levels coming in, right? But the interesting thing we noticed is everybody, including the executive level, are now saying that the jobs are more around coding and understanding the code, understanding more about software, understanding, bringing in new skill sets and stuff into the mix. And Rohit, you're not the only engineer, executive that I've seen who have started as an engineer, software engineer, and who's, leading support, right? So there's a lot of people that I'm seeing that are coming in that way. And do you see that trend also? That's question number one. That's the easiest part. The second thing is, how are you preparing yourself for that change?
Yeah, I mean, this whole revolution of AI agents and agency in general is going in a direction where everyone wants to optimize. They all want, how can we save people, improve efficiency, improve productivity. So save in any factor, right? Whether time, whether it's money, it's always about how we can optimize. So we are seeing that shift for sure in every step of the way. I mean, from a very simple pull request into a code, you want to automate the generation of the documentation of the pull request. It's as simple as, a small change is going to create a big impact over time. So at every possible opportunity that we try to optimize, we are trying to embed things like AI or systems or tools that actually facilitate in that. So to build out all this, there is a lot of development and coding that happens, but we are also leveraging AI to do that development and coding. So we are seeing a lot of influence like systems like Cursor, GitHub Copilot being like used day in, day out to actually build out these tools to facilitate every step of the way. And that's definitely happening. I mean, every leader in every org is expecting, that shift to happen.
That's correct, Rohit. Very true. We are not going to escape AI. It's going to happen, especially, I think we are all in that realm. But I'm trying to think from your perspective of decades of experience, right? What is it you are doing to prepare yourself, right? So, for example, we have customers with whom they don't, just going and logging, bringing out the logs takes like 10, 15 minutes. We are automating that, right? So that's why we are a full service ecosystem. So everything from entitlement to bringing logs to processing logs to even bringing down manuals from the various manufacturers, all of that is getting automated. But how can I, as a support executive, make myself ready for this change?
I think bringing awareness, you should have some kind of evangelism happening within your team. You need at least, like I always give this example of having one engineer dedicated to be an evangelist, focusing on trying to bring the latest and greatest, break things, like, do lots of POCs. Everything is not going to be a success. So being ahead of the curve is key. Things are changing day in, day out. Doing a lot of experiments internally. Many of those experiments are not going to be successful, but there's going to be a lot of learning in each of these experiments. So something that we do internally is we try to keep ourselves aware of what's going to happen next. And if you, for example, MCP servers are something that's picking up as something in the industry. It's if you really break it down, it's not rocket science. It's a protocol. It can be understood. But being ahead of the curve and understanding, okay, what in our ecosystem can really fit into that paradigm and how can we leverage that? So being that evangelist kind of, having that evangelist kind of outlook is key. Experimenting is key. Letting things fail is absolutely okay. You're going to learn a lot. So that's something that we typically do. And we are looking at it from the customer's perspective and from the support engineer's perspective, not just, one angle.
That's right.
What can we do to even avoid the origination of a support ticket? What can we do from that point, right?
I always say no ticket, right? So the ticket itself is a flawed concept. If there was a customer sitting with us and they are hearing that it's ticket 1, 2, 3, 4, they go like, what is it? Is this how they refer to us? So anyway, agreed. Sarah, your perspective on it, please.
Yeah, so I think two answers to that question. So the first one, externally, when we're positioning ourselves, to clients and talking to clients about it, Rohit, you will love this message, but our first conversation is data, right? So if you do not have structured architecture around your data, if you do not have clarity on what you're looking for, you will not get a good result. So, we're still in a world of rubbish in, rubbish out. Gen AI will not fix that necessarily for you. So, that is our clear message. Any Gen AI transition strategy needs to start from your data architecture. Internally, in terms of how I prepare myself and how I'm helping my team prepare myself is exactly as Rohit says. Just use it, start practicing, develop use cases, understand how can I use this in my day-to-day that then helps me understand where it's beneficial for others. So, things as simple as we have an internal AI platform, but using that to write an email for me saves me so much time in my day. Using it to write reports or generate insight for me saves so much time in my day. And getting my team to think about what tasks do you do that are repetitive or are repeating? And then can we get AI to replace that? So quality checks, quality audits, anything that is assessment based, we can use our AI platforms for. And we have forums, evangelical forums, like you talked about, Rohit, where we share, as a team and then as a function, where have you used IX Hello this week to benefit? What did it save you? How much time did it save you? Or what was the quality increase you got from using this platform? And it just takes, somebody to say, well, I used it to assess all of our coaching output and it gave me this result, for somebody else to then think, oh, well, that would be relevant in my business if I adapted it in this way. And then ideas grow and develop, and some work, some don't. But like you say, Rohit, you always learn. So I think enabling the conversation internally, having people constantly try and then sharing the use cases is really how we're driving the conversation internally, which helps us then drive the conversation externally.
Yeah, one thing that Rohit mentioned is having somebody as an evangelist and within the team is, I was recently talking to another service leader whose team was thinking they had change management issues on AI. And Sarah, from your perspective, do you have other tools in your belt, like having a person as an evangelist? Both of you can answer this, right? But Sarah, we can start with you. What is it that you do to bring that change management in so people are willing to try?
I think what has worked for us is not pushing it as an enforcement. So you must do, this is now how we do business. It's more bringing out the stories of, look how this helped this person. Just by typing this in, they were able to get this result, which saved them this much time in their day. There is a fear factor associated with, I don't know what that is. I don't know how it works. I don't know what to use it for. So to help those people start to use the tools that are there, sharing how other people have found them useful has helped. We've also developed a suite of smart assistants. So, we've developed some already ready platforms and tools that people can just go in, and they're loaded with commands that help people. But I think sharing the use cases where people can go off in their own time and give it a go and start to become more familiar with the product. So finding those early adopters, because there are people in every team who just always want to be the first one to use, the first one to learn, and they get excited about technology. And there are always the people who are, oh no, not for me. I like the way things always have been. I'll just carry on. So using the early adopters to share the use cases with those people who are more nervous really helps us gradually roll out the full capability and get everybody to the point where they're comfortable and becoming evangelists for the platform. So, I think that's the sort of approach that multiplies and really starts to avalanche in terms of impact, because you start with maybe 10 people who are really at it and really love it, and then all of a sudden they have an impact on 100 people, who have an impact on 10,000 people, who have an impact on 100,000 people. And it's kind of that cascade type sharing of information and sharing of case studies that really helps our teams understand how AI can improve their day in work.
That's excellent. That's very much like the cascade effect, which is the startup story, right? So we are also looking for early adopters and sharing their gains and their expertise into everybody else to say, hey, this is what can be done, and show them how it can be done, so everybody else comes in. Anything else you want to add, Rohit, outside of what you had mentioned?
Yeah, I think the one of the things that I'll actually give a shout out to my company as well at Databricks. There is this culture of, you have access to all these different tools. The platform itself is an AI platform at Databricks. The product that we give our customers is something that we consume internally to build a lot of AI stuff, AI tools, and everything is accessible to all folks within the company. Whoever wants to get access to a language model, query the language model, build a tool. The culture itself is such that, so many seeds, and you're going to see something come up from somewhere, and bring it all together and try to build something that's more uniform to everyone's access. It reminds me very of a very similar story of Apple's co-founder Steve Wozniak. When he was growing up, his father would leave around capacitors and transistors around him, and he would pick them and try to build something. And eventually, that's what motivated him to build the first Apple computer. It's a very similar story. Like, we have access to so many different tools. We have the culture of sharing what we build. We have a distribution list where we keep pumping out whatever we build. We share it. If it piques somebody's interest, even we have the CEO of the company commenting on certain of the certain contributions. So I think that culture also matters. It's very difficult for a small group to bring a big change. If the company itself is providing that culture, I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah, we talked about the use cases along this entire thing, so that's excellent. You are, the culture of the company and the culture that the company sets out. So there is a recent Shopify memo that has been going around where the culture is set for what we need to do with AI, and everybody else is following through. That's amazing. And we are actually, even as a company, I love talking to support executives and CIOs who have actually played around with AI. Because when they have played around with AI and they have done those POCs that you both have been talking about, they have a very good idea about what use cases are their priority. And they exactly know what kind of issues they will face, and what are the, how to evaluate a tool vendor too. And that is, I think, very, very, very effective. Because you're not teaching them from the basics, but you're actually going and adding in to their learning. So that's excellent. We do have, Sarah, you talked about measuring efficiency, saying, hey, this saved time for this person, and how do you take that expertise and how do you bring everybody up to speed, right? And that is a way to measure efficiency. If there is any other ways that you are thinking about efficiency, which is, before and after, how much time and how much time, is that's the standard. If there is anything else, please feel free to jump in. Otherwise, we can go into the next question.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it depends on the scale, but, for internally, we measure based on simplification, based on effectiveness, and based on efficiency. There's also a qualitative assessment, right? Because some of our AI tools are looking at, well, how good is the output? How good were our coaching forms, our coaching evaluations, for example? And we can load what our expectations are and compare the work that our team leaders are doing to that expectation. So that gives us an automated quality report that would have taken a whole bunch of people and a whole bunch of teams to do previously. But, we can load that data into the tool and it will give us that qualitative feedback. So I think there are quantitative measures, which are around efficiency, cost reduction, head count, and so on, and time saving, all of those sorts of things. But there are also qualitative benefits to be had by ways of, measuring consistency, measuring how high quality our outputs are. So there's, I think for me, those are the two lenses through which we would look at our output from an AI perspective.
Yeah, consistency is a key, and people tend to not, remember that. So I'm glad you mentioned it, because consistency comes in two forms. One is, am I getting the same result every time I check? Because that's when I can make actions. That's one. Second is consistency that I've also heard is, if Sarah is in Belfast and Kay is in California and Rohit is in North Carolina, can they be consistent in their own actions irrespective of where they are, right? So, and that is also a consistency that can be achieved with AI. So I'm very glad that you brought that in along with quality. Rohit, anything else you want to add to what was mentioned?
I think it's a big plus one to what Sarah mentioned. The only other thing that I could think of is the evaluation set, right? This whole concept of how do we evaluate these new systems, these new Gen AI systems. We are talking about building in determinism on top of a non-deterministic system. The large language models generally are known to be highly non-deterministic, and we are trying to build a layer on top of it to ensure that we get deterministic output. So the key aspect of that is building an evaluation set for every project, every kind of POC that you're trying to build. Am I really aligning to the evaluation I set out to do? And are my evaluation sets really clearing? That's key. And I think probably also to ask the question at every step of the way, is AI really required here, right? Because we tend to pick up the new thing that's coming in and try to find, okay, everything is I have a hammer, let me find a nail, and everything is a nail, right? So it's very important for us to debate with ourselves to ensure that is AI really needed here, or can this be just automated by a simple traditional way of automation? And I think those are key things leaders should definitely remember.
Well said, very well said. And I think The deterministic system, that's a completely separate technical topic, and we can talk for hours on it, which is why I always say RAG is just table stakes. So, so having said that, we are finding all these efficiencies all throughout the organization, all throughout support, everything. And one of the things, I've never seen that to be an issue so far, because support organizations, service organizations are so stretched, so thin. But people always question saying, hey, what do we do with people when there is this additional capacity, right? So your perspective on it would be great. And Rohit, we can start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just like any other technology, even Gen AI is going through an infancy stage, right? So you need some guide. It's like a child that you're growing along with you. So it's first going to augment your work. It's not going to replace your work. So during the augmentation phase, there is a lot of opportunity for our existing manpower to upskill themselves to ensure that the AI is also upskilled accordingly. Like Sarah mentioned, data is key. I mean, if you don't have the right data, no matter how sophisticated your AI agent is, it's going to give you, garbage results if the garbage data exists. So it's very important for these existing engineers, existing folks, existing personnel to work alongside with AI to make AI do some of their mundane tasks, automate some of their routine tasks, so that they can focus on tasks that require creativity, high skill involvement, domain, the ever changing domain importance, right? So your product is constantly evolving, and the AI is going to take some time to catch up to it to get to
I'm
that.
getting complex.
Yes, absolutely. And the demands are also increasing. So let's say you now have AI agents working for you. The expectation from customers are also going to say, hey, now you have that, you should be faster in your responses. So what is now stopping you? So there is a lot of opportunity for engineers to upskill themselves from where they were, and offload the mundane, the time taking tasks to systems like AI, and over time become specialists in their areas. I think there are so many avenues. I just feel that it's a revolution, just like how things started improving from people doing manual work with the internet coming on. People said that, oh, internet is going to take over. Of course, it took over, but it took over alongside a highly skilled set of engineers who upskilled themselves to utilize the internet as it should be. And I'm very positive that the next set of engineers that are going to come up or grow into are going to be highly skilled engineers that are going to tame AI to use it to the best possible way, just like how we see the internet being used today.
Sarah?
Yeah, very, very similar. I think having been in this industry for 20 years, we started with telephone calls, and when email came along, everybody said, oh, nobody will need a phone because we've got email now. And then when messaging came along, everybody said, oh, we'll not need email or phone anymore because we've got messaging. And we still have phones, and we still have email, and we still have messaging. So now we have an additional capability. And I think through all of those evolutions, we've seen the role of our frontline team become more and more advanced to, exactly as you said, Rohit, the skills have increased, and people have had to learn more. We've had to teach them more. They've had to develop different skill sets. And I think that this is just, we're still on that continuum. So, we have time to develop people's capability in terms of what are the requirements now to keep our customers satisfied given the world of AI. So it may be we need to respond quicker. It may be that we have different methods of accessing a human contact if that's what's required. So I think it's the upskilling of our staff and understanding where do we fit in, and where does AI augment and improve what we're doing, and what does that leave us that we need to do as the human interface behind support. So, I think it's opportunity for people to learn and grow, and I think it's exciting.
It is exciting.
Sorry, if you just could add one more aspect, like probably usually gets unnoticed, is how quickly academia is responding to this change. If you look at all the things that are happening in colleges and courses and stuff, they are already implementing so many of these newer technology to be part of their curriculum. So the next workforce that comes out and graduates, you're going to see them already at a level where, highly skilled, able to use these tech to the best of its possibility, being extremely enterprising and building out newer tech along with this. So I think we are at a phase and are, very lucky to be in this generation where, the internet, AI, all of them are really flourishing, and academia is actually responding to it very, very quickly. So I'm very bullish about it.
Yeah, and
That's
actually the support needs for this generation will be different to the support needs for me, because my reaction is I want to pick up a phone and talk to somebody. My 16 and 13-year-old children do not have that response whatsoever, so how consumers respond to, kind of how they engage with that technology will drive us to how the service industry then needs to respond.
Yeah, so this is awesome. I think it's a perfect way to end in this bullish and optimistic tone that you both mentioned for how the next generation is getting prepared, how the existing people are getting prepared, and how we are all marching towards yet another change where change is the constant. So Rohit, Sarah, thank you both very much for your time that you took to share your experience, your background to the rest of the service leaders and the rest of the service and the support community. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for that. Really appreciate it.